Chelsea are Europa League champions, and how, man? I was hoping for a lot of goals, and I like to believe that I am to thank for willing it to happen with my high-scoring prediction. The prediction I just threw out there wasn't great, but we can discuss that in a moment. Hello, I'm Adrian, and this is Rabona TV's reaction and review of the Europa League final. Right, so let's just get it out of the way because I know it's oh so satisfying for you guys. Arsenal will just edge it. As for a score, 2-1, 3-2. I'll go with 4-3 here, which is a hopeful prediction in that I just want to be entertained, man. I don't care who wins, as long as I'm entertained. Hey, look, he was wrong. Yes, I was. I certainly was, as football makes a fool of us all who try to predict what happens, and unfortunately for creators, such as myself, proof of their predictions is up on the internet forever. But wow, Chelsea. I know a lot of your fans weren't very optimistic going into this one, so what a sigh of relief. More than a sigh of relief, actually. This was a defiant booty slap. We're talking bare booty here. Okay, so the first half of this match wasn't the most engaging. There wasn't a ton to talk about there. Arsenal showed the first signs of attacking intent earlier on, with Xhaka's effort that clipped the bar being the most dangerous, but Chelsea had their moments later in the half. Most of Arsenal's joy was when they would attack down the right, though Kolasinac was involved to a degree, but the final ball from seemingly, well, him and everyone else was lacking. The end of that half was a welcomed release. It wasn't the worst half of football ever, but it just wasn't good. And here's my impression of the atmosphere in the stadium. Ready? Pretty good, right? Now, during the half, Sarri said that he told his team that he wanted them to move the ball faster and stop playing like they're trying to hold on to a result. Show a little more courage, as he put it. And in doing so, they basically took Arsenal's midfield out of the game. Chelsea, on the other hand, exploited the space on the wings quite well with diagonal balls from their midfield or sprayed out by Giroud or Hazard. In fact, there was evidence of that starting to work at times in the latter half of the first half, with Hazard and Emerson combining well down the left. But back to Arsenal's midfield. Where were Torreira and Xhaka in that second half? They were nowhere to be seen, completely overrun by Kanté, who was a doubt for this match, but they rolled the dice on him and he did well. Kovacic and Jorginho, and to make it even more difficult, Hazard was dropping deeper to pressure and even won a few balls himself. In this match, I can't think of a single piece of play from Ozil that resembled anything close to the level of Hazard. Ozil was completely ineffectual, and maybe Emery, in hindsight, of course, should have considered dragging him off at halftime. Barely a factor. Trash performance from him, inexcusable, and what really pissed me off, even as a neutral, as a Benfica fan, was when he actually did get subbed off. He walked slowly off the pitch. I don't care if your team is losing 4-1. You get the fuck off the pitch as fast as you can. You don't resign to defeat and drag your feet. Another accidental rhyme, man. I'm just on fire with those these days. Anyway, yeah, if that was a Benfica player and we were losing a final and I saw them slowly walking off the pitch, even if we were losing by 3 goals, I would lose my mind. Show a little passion. Show a little fight. Giroud was wasteful in the first half with his silly attempts at flicks and tricks on the few occasions that he got the ball in the Arsenal 18, but he had an excellent display in the second. That ball to Hazard for the 4th goal, Aubameyang should take note of that. Aubameyang's final ball is quite bad, though the one good one he played towards Lacazette completely mistimed his jump. Proof of that being Azpilicueta was able to jump to meet it, and he was directly behind Lacazette. But yeah, back to Giroud. Not only was his ball to Hazard great, but his goal was extremely well taken. And he, of course, also won the penalty when Maitland-Niles clumsily got way too close to his man. You could see that Giroud knew of his presence there and just waited for the contact. Clever boy. Speaking of Maitland-Niles, he was also at fault, or at least partially, for Chelsea's second goal of the match, which I almost completely forgot about. Apologies to Pedro. Maitland-Niles coughed up possession rather cheaply in his own half, and within 3 passes, Hazard to Kovacic, back to Hazard, and a ball inside to Pedro, boom! 2-0, Arsenal's defense undone again. With a ball coming in from the left again. Clearly Maitland-Niles was a weak point. I mean, Chelsea won the penalty when Giroud was wide open on the left in the box. Throughout the second, the solidity of Chelsea's defense, on the other hand, was key. Cutting out passes, blocking tons of shots. Here's looking at you, Andreas Christensen. Kepa made a fantastic save. And the ones that the Chelsea defenders and keeper couldn't get to, Arsenal's players couldn't finish for the life of them today. Or they would take a heavy touch in the box, as both Aubameyang and Lacazette did on a couple of occasions. In fact, the players that looked the most dangerous for Arsenal were probably two of their subs, Joe Willock and Alex Iwobi. Iwobi scored a stunning volley from outside the 18 and just generally looked to be more dangerous than anyone else had on the pitch for Arsenal. And it's such a shame that such a beautiful goal in a final was scored in a lopsided loss. 4-1 the final, man of the match performance out of Eden Hazard, though you'd be remiss not to mention Giroud and Emerson and credit the entire Chelsea backline as well. Arsenal, I mean, how do you choose a top performer for them? Actually, Arsenal's best performer was Alex Iwobi. Boom. A guy who featured for just 23 minutes. That's pretty much sums up how this final went for Arsenal. Chelsea have now won 3 European titles in 7 seasons. Anyone who tries to discount the 2 Europa League titles are boring and jealous. But seriously, it's crazy how when Chelsea are apparently in some sort of crisis or there's some sort of drama with their managers or the players, they pull themselves together and they win somehow. They won the Champions League when Di Matteo was the interim manager. They won the Europa League when Rafa Benitez was their interim manager. And they won the Europa League again while Sarri was the Juventus manager. I'm joking. But their season, considering the drama, considering Sarri's stubbornness, considering it all, they still managed to make it to the League Cup final and only lost to City thanks to a shootout. They still managed to stumble their way into third, and they trounced Arsenal 4-1 in the Europa League final without losing a single match along the way. It helps that they played some terrible teams, but that aside, they didn't let their guard down, and I've got another Opta Joe number that may interest you. Despite everything mentioned, Sarri won 39 matches in his first season with Chelsea, with Mourinho and his 42 wins in his first season being the only Chelsea manager above him in that regard, as far as wins in their first season goes. It makes for a really interesting summer ahead for Chelsea. Hazard pretty much confirmed that he's 100% leaving when, after the match, he said, quote, "We will decide in a few days. The only target in my mind was to win this final. Maybe now it is time for a new challenge. I think it's a goodbye, but in football you never know." End quote. God, Eden, just don't play with those poor Chelsea fans' hearts anymore, man. Just say you're leaving or you're staying. Well, to be fair, Sarri did confirm after the match that it was Hazard's intention to leave the club. On top of that, many are speculating that Sarri himself could leave for the vacant Juventus position this summer, as I alluded to earlier. Don't know how much to read into that. I guess it all depends on whether Sarri wants to leave Chelsea or not, and if he does, could you really blame him? It seems like there has been nothing but frustration for him there. I hope he smoked a fair few packs of cigarettes in celebration, because the man deserved it. Wouldn't this be the most badass moment? It's 4-1, 93rd minute of the 4 minutes of stoppage time. Maurizio Sarri reaches into his jacket pocket, pulls out a cigarette. As the final whistle blows, he uses the shine off of Emery's forehead to light his cigarette and blow the smoke into, I guess, Emery's face. What an epic gamer moment that would be for Sarri. As for Arsenal, well, they'll have a shot at the Europa League title once again next season, unfortunately, as they will be missing out on the Champions League for the 3rd season in a row now, I believe. So does that mean that you are a confirmed Europa League tier team? Smash reply in the chat. Pretty surprised that a guy like Emery, who won 3 of his previous 3 Europa League titles, lost so emphatically in his 4th. And now without the Champions League money again, and with how the financial situation is a little tight, it seems, these days at Arsenal, it could be another difficult year for them. I feel for Emery. He has a very difficult task ahead of him now, one that was already pretty damn difficult. And by the way, with how poor Ozil has been and with how poor the midfield was in general in the second half, this is a taste of what Arsenal's midfield will look like next season. Allowing Ramsey to leave on a free is looking more and more like a gargantuan L than ever before. Crazy mismanagement. Now, I mean, it may have been his intention to leave no matter what money they threw at him, so I don't know. For Chelsea, as I alluded to, their next season is just as murky, but as evidenced by the past 7 years now, back to when Chelsea won the Champions League with Di Matteo as their manager, no matter the drama surrounding their club, they find ways to win trophies, and we'd be fools to count them out of any competition entirely. Okay, so that's all from me, guys. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you're a Chelsea fan, I'm sure you did, and if you're an Arsenal fan, it may have been a little more difficult. Commiserations. I know what it's like to be on the wrong end of these Europa League finals. Try doing it 2 seasons in a row. If you feel like you can spare it, then consider donating a like to this video. But other than that, I'm Adrian, this is Rabona TV, and I'll see you again tomorrow for your UEFA Nations League preview video. Take care.